Yeah. Nailed it. I'm so sick of it.
Ooh, I redeemed myself.
You needed to have your white flag, man. You need to have your white flag climbing up scaffolding and stuff like that.
I'm sure that was a controversial song choice. I don't know why I think that, but
No, it's not. It's a great song.
oh, it is a great song. But you know how U2 always has been. They always have a message. It's usually a good one, right? Nice.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
I mean, I know we probably a lot of us saw them at their beginning, you know, or I don't know. I guess the first show I saw theirs was in their early 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was off a war tour or something like that.
Oh my God.
So I was late to the party.
That's actually pretty early. How old are you? Like 6 years old?
I was only 6 or maybe 3. I don't know. I was probably in my dad's lap. Yeah, right. Because we're all that young, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would highly encourage anybody to go watch. David Letterman just recently did an interview with The Edge and Bono in Dublin.
Oh, really?
And it's great.
Oh,
it's great.
On the Netflix show?
Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. Yeah, it takes you through the years, and they kind of talked about what Dublin was like in the 70s. They talk about the troubles. They talk about all the problems, and it kind of drove because you're right, they were different than all those other bands. They had a message. There was angst. They were, you know,
the vocals. I mean, Bono. I mean, the reason why everyone loves Bono's vocals is because he's just got that whole, no pun intended, edge. You know, I mean, he's not a great singer. He's an amazing vocalist, right?
Right.
Yeah. He isn't.
He's not trying to go for the high notes like Steve
he's not
Perry. He's more in that lower range.
No. He can hit high notes. He just there's this emotional edge, and he just goes off like he's not on center. You know, he's weaving
Speaking
all
of the edge,
place, but
very sincere. Speaking of the edge,
Speaking of the edge, what I didn't realize, because I'm an idiot. And he talks about it in this, you know, it's Bono and Edge are together because they did it while the other guy, Larry Mullins, and everybody was out doing something else. And Bono was like, the Edge could do the whole thing by himself. It turns out he's the actual powers the whole thing. Yeah. He's the genius behind all of it. And it was just luck that they're friends and the Edge lets him sing the songs. but it turns out the Edge does everything. Creates almost everything. He is the power behind it. And he obviously talked about, you know, obviously Bono's an activist in a lot of ways.
Right.
And he knows that it ruffled feathers with his bandmates sometimes, you know, because they were like, can't we just be a rock band?
Yeah.
Why are you out trying to save the world, Bono? Or, you know, different causes.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How goes it, man? How's it going, Peter?
You know Pete, right?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. We worked at Microsoft.
Good.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. It's like
many years ago.
Yeah.
Way back when.
You know, Pete's a really good interviewist or interviewer, right?
Interviewer.
Is there such a thing as an interviewist? Be like
is that like a barista?
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, good to have you, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for sending me the invite. Actually, Rob was on my original podcast 3 years ago or so, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, thanks for doing that. But, yeah, no, it's interesting times. Interesting times. I was actually mentioning to Leonard, you were talking about U2 and seeing the show at the Sphere in Vegas, which I haven't done yet. It's on my list.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I've only heard amazing things, but save my pennies and go down there and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it's a pretty pricey ticket.
Yeah. Hot ticket.
Like $2,000.
Something like that.
Something crazy.
I think the good news is there probably isn't a bad seat. So
yeah,
right.
Probably.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's a good point. Yeah. No. But you're right. You're right. We've seen certainly seen so many friends posting stuff on Facebook and stuff and videos inside the Sphere, and it just looks incredible. What a venue. That's pretty remarkable for sure. It's been fun because a lot of us go to Vegas a lot for all these day conferences.
Way too much.
And so we kind of saw it under construction over the last few years.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Hey, Marc.
Really impressive. Hey, yeah. So, hey, IoT Coffee Talk listeners and viewers, welcome. At some point, we have to say that. We appreciate you jumping on and listening to us talk about you too for like 10 minutes. But we appreciate your viewership, of course, and we hope that you will hang on until the end because the nuggets usually come in the middle toward the end, right? We're just warming up right now. And before we kick things off, I want to thank the folks at EMQ Technologies for making a generous donation to elevate our kids. We have a donation drive going on right now. Okay. And we have a goal of raising $25,000 to help kids in, unserved communities to bridge the digital equity divide. Okay. So we want to be inclusive.
It's not just a digital divide anymore.
No, there's an equity divide. I live in the digital divide. Okay. I get SOS
on your phone
here on my phone. Okay. So technically I'm in the friggin' digital divide. Okay. But there is no equity divide in our house. So
I remember
we have to make a distinction here.
I remember when Stephanie told us the term under-resourced, as opposed to underserved, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's a new one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the whole mission behind IoT Coffee Talks, behind the scenes.
That's what keeps everything.
Because we started this during COVID when we were all disconnected, and then I have a wife who's a school teacher, and we noticed all the kids had to go home and go to school from home. And then we discovered lots of these kids, depending on the school district, some school districts are more affluent than others around the country and around the world. And so some didn't have laptops for the kids at home. And then we discovered lots of families didn't even have internet access at home. And so that kind of drove our nonprofit, this Elevate Our Kids, to raise money, get laptops.
There you go.
Windows PCs, Chromebooks, whatever, to these kids. Get them those little hockey puck or whatever thing, MiFi. Get families because you know what? That digital divide starts at childhood.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to recover if you don't get it early, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Learning.
Absolutely.
True.
And you need something to connect to. It's not just about connectivity. You can have connectivity, but if you have nothing to connect to it, to access all the cool stuff that kids can use to, learn all that other stuff.
Study aids and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, like Khan Academy.
Yeah. So again, if you're not into charity, but you're into fashion, you can go there on the website, which is www.elevateourkids.org, and then buy this beautiful.
Are you pitching merch?
Oh yeah.
It's cool. Leonard and I, we've several years ago we've gone to this conference called Mountain Connect, and then they do it in Colorado. Used to be up literally in the mountains. It was in Denver this last time, and and that, a lot of the discussion had been around, you probably heard, at least in the U.S., this big proposal. The acronym is BEAD, B-E-A-D, but it's to ultimately get broadband to everybody in the country in the same way that we did rural electrification decades ago, as part of bridging that digital divide. And it was so interesting being at that conference to find out how hard this task is going to be. Didn't think I'd hear terms like Box Canyon in Colorado, or how hard it's going to get connectivity to those people. Yeah. But we also learned when you talk about like under resource, you might be in an urban area surrounded by fiber, but it's so expensive that you still can't avail yourself of it. Yeah. And so we learned about all these programs to make it lower cost for families to get broadband wherever they live. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So Mr. Edgecelsior, what is going on, dude?
Yeah. Long time listener, first time caller, you know. So it's good to be here.
Partaking in the nonsense. That's good.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I've been soaking in it for a while now, but yeah, no, it's good. Actually, I saw Leonard in person in Vegas for the first time. Yeah, that was nice.
That was awesome.
Appreciated that. Got out behind the keyboard here and did that. And yeah, now there's just a lot going on. I was telling Leonard, I was talking to some folks last night from Renesas and Qualcomm about Tiny Edge, TinyML, all the stuff going on. I mean, as you guys all know, every day is filled with everything from cloud to edge and everything in between. So it's tough to keep up with the news cycles.
It is. It's really hard to keep up, and it's hard to understand how everything is interlinked. That's the other challenge, you know. So I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
I feel like our friends like Zach Shelby and company were early on the TinyML thing with Edge Impulse. They were jumping on that a few years ago.
Yeah, they're still at it. They're doing great stuff. They're kind of like modular AI. They're trying to kind of solve that whole heterogeneity problem. It's only going to get more complicated over time. So I feel like they're in a good spot to do it, and they've done a good job. They got into it really early, and so I applaud their tenacity. But
yeah, it's still the state of the art. So it's amazing how good does it steal their product. They are going towards the right direction.
Say what?
Your connection sounds really weird.
Yeah, you sound like you're in Europe.
Are you? Yeah. But obviously, another big player at Edge Impulse, our good friend Adam Bensian here in Seattle. You know, and he's part of our. Well, we've had this Washington State IoT Council now forever. We recently changed the name to Council on Connected Intelligence. Anyway, but it's been good having him and other folks part of that here in the Seattle area for those meetings. Good stuff.
There's a lot of folks trying to glue this stuff together. Like you said, it only works when it works together, and that's usually, as you know, that's where the stuff sort of falls down. Is that cool? All these pieces of cool tech that you have in your garbage bag that don't quite work end to end. So Edge Impulse, they're in a good spot, I think, and hopefully they can make a good business out of it. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Pete, you've been doing a lot of interviewing a lot of folks in and around the edge space?
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of the kind of on-device AI, edge AI things. I did an in-depth thing with Qualcomm, Jeff Torrance's group recently, and kind of digging into this, what is on-device AI? I mean, there's edge AI, which we know about, right? Which is like, vision AI and anomaly detection or whatever. And then there's this, it's kind of generative AI on device. Like, what is that whole thing? Is that just like a series of hashtags, or is that like an actual thing? And I don't know yet. I know AI PC. I mean, I've talked to my friends at Microsoft. I think they're still trying to figure that out.
We heard AI PC recently, didn't we?
AI PC.
I asked that question. I got a pretty, uncompelling answer to it.
Yeah. Marketers gone wild.
Yeah.
Marketers gone wild. Yeah.
I mean, basically it amounts to just running large language models on a PC for whatever benefit
I guess
you might be able to imagine.
Airplane mode. It's all about airplane mode.
Airplane mode. There you go. So both of you guys, you saw, I mean, obviously the biggest talk I'd say in the last week or so, aside from the bomb that just got dropped on us from OpenAI yesterday or whatever the day before, was obviously all those Qualcomm announcements of their new processors that are insanely awesome and to compete with Intel and compete with Apple Silicon, and of course, we just launched some new Apple M3 devices. What are you guys? You guys were more plugged into this than I was. What's your take on all
that? It's getting exciting.
You guys were analysts. Come on, talk to me.
I think definitely getting Oryon out there, which is the CPU cores, is a big deal. I'm looking forward to Qualcomm getting those into the Gen 8 series processors for smartphones, the premium smartphones, because MediaTek just announced Dimensity, the 9300, and that thing it's basically, I don't know. I mean, some of the benchmarks tell a very sobering story, and so
I read that it only has the big cores and not the little cores. And so it's like so the battery life might be an hour, but it'd be really fast.
Well, it depends. So here's the thing. I had a chance to talk to Gerard Williams, who is the founder of Nuvia, which was acquired by Qualcomm in 2000.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things he told us, and it was like a casual conversation out in like the atrium of one of the halls that we're in. He told us, because they went with an all-performance core design, right? They don't have any E-cores at all. And he told us, well, the thing is the way we've designed the performance core had power efficiency in mind. And so the way that the cores are designed is with what I dub high dynamic range, right? So these are high dynamic range performance, like HDR. It's like
HDR.
Yeah. But they have a very, very wide range where there isn't this floor that it'll just drop off of when it gets down to a certain power level, right? Or performance or clock speed or what have you. The thing is people are starting to move in that direction. So we might see E-cores go away as the cores become a little bit more dynamic in their power envelope, as well
as more fine-grained in their control.
So they're a little bit more multi-purpose and versatile, right? And so so we'll see what happens with the architectures, but that was like one of the things that really popped. And a lot of the analysts, especially the technical ones who focus on chips all the time,
especially the technical ones. Especially the ones that don't just regurgitate what the company tells them.
But so like guys like Ian Cutress, right? I don't know.
Okay.
He's the
tech potato
guy. He's a friend of mine. I did an interview with him. He thought it was unusual, and in fact, I think he and I were in I was with Mario Morales, who's the chief analyst for semiconductors at IDC at the time when we were having this chat. But that's really cool. But the thing is if you listen to this Qualcomm call, right, earnings call, I mean, we might not see a PC with a Series X or X series processor, or in particular the X Elite processor, which is that new AI PC processor that announced, until 2025. So,
wow,
that feels like a huge miss.
That's a huge miss.
Yeah,
I mean, they announced. I think so. Like when we first did the Windows on Snapdragon, we announced it at Snapdragon Summit 2018, and then we were on the shelf by early 2019, like a few months later. I think we actually had working units up and running at the event. So to not have an X Elite PC for another year and a half or whatever, I don't know what happened there. That feels like
hey, but
you had the CEO from Lenovo there, right? Didn't he come in?
No, he wasn't there, but he gave like
video
talk. Yeah, he gave a little bit of a talk, but it was the CEO of Honor, which is formerly of Huawei,
Formerly Huawei.
Committing to X Elite. But hey, I want to make something very clear. They did have reference design, laptops as well as, in progress chips that they made available for benchmarking. I mean, they're pretty, impressive. In terms of, I would say, in terms of core design, they're probably at least on par with what Apple has with their core designs, which is impressive. Yeah,
that's a big statement.
Yeah, but they're definitely they're in spitting distance of Apple with this thing.
Well, yeah, but when you look at go to market, Apple, they are. I mean, you can go and get. You could have gotten an M3 MacBook yesterday, and that's a huge difference, right?
And I think it's 2023. Last time I checked.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not 2025 or whatever.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. Yeah. You know what, though? This is going to seem obvious, but we've watched Cristiano where Qualcomm has been going in a lot of different directions the last few years, They've been making modems, and they've been making the Snapdragon chipset, which powers mostly Android devices. And then you saw him go, okay, we're going to go after the automobile industry. We want Snapdragon to live inside cars, which I think is a great move. And then, and then I remember when I was at Ericsson, we'd have meetings with their top guys. And I remember early on, they were starting talking about the notion of 5G laptops, which is a stretch, but we kind of had that Intel Centrino conversation, because Centrino is really what got Wi-Fi mass marketed. I always give credit to Intel for doing that. All of a sudden, when every laptop had Wi-Fi, that made it real for everyone. And so Qualcomm is like, well, we want 5G laptops to be the same thing. We'll see what happens there. But then now really doubling down to say we're going to take on Intel and Apple with Windows PCs running on their silicon. I think it's great. I think it's aggressive. I think they're going after lots of different markets.
Yeah.
Good for Qualcomm.
No, I think they're definitely, they're really they have to diversify, right? And get kind of off the smartphone thing, which is kind of plateauing. And I think the automotive one's probably their biggest long-term growth area, to be honest with you. I mean, the PC business is, 100 million or so units a year, of which if you totally, like right now, 70% of those are Intel. So, if you get 10 million units, that's a big win. That's a huge win in that market. And for Qualcomm, like 10 million units of something, doesn't quite move the needle. It's good headlines and stuff, but I don't know if it's really, like, as opposed to them. But currently, they're kind of running the table in a lot of the automotive design wins in the IVI layer and stuff and ADAS. And that to me feels like a big new stronghold for them.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
But
it's exciting.
Yeah. But
whatever happened to ARM servers?
They're there.
Ampere.
Remember when that was going to be a thing?
AWS has an instance of ARM servers you can put your workloads on, and they cost less.
But if I want to go, let's say I'm in the data center business, or I'm doing colo. I know that sounds really 90s, like we're at Exodus or something. But if I was today at Equinix or whatever, and I wanted to buy ARM servers from Dell or HP or whatever, I feel like it's not really broadly available to me.
I think the ARM semiconductor folks on the server class really tried to just sell into the hyperscalers directly. Yeah, because that's kind of the big win. It's kind of a go big or go home business. And either you sell into AWS and Microsoft and maybe Google, otherwise you don't have a business. So all that other stuff about selling into Lenovo's and Dell's for some rack mounted this and that is kind of like, just kind of a rounding error, I think, in some of their server businesses. So I think if someone can be successful with hyperscalers and then turn that into a broader business, then I think there's
the hyperscalers themselves are successful, or arguably successful. I mean, AWS has Graviton, right? And
they have the Graviton.
True.
And also, you consider Grace Hopper, NVIDIA's Grace Hopper is. It uses the Grace, CPU, SoC.
Right.
So every that ships is based on an ARM CPU. Of course it's going to be paired with
selfishly.
Huh?
Leonard, I'm being selfish here because at my startup, I'm trying to build a distributed edge cloud across commercial real estate. And I would love to have the narrative of low power edge cloud compute in commercial real estate rather than eating up lots of electricity, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's not like, am I going to get Atom-based servers from Intel? Which kind of suck.
Right, but
I don't know.
Well, you have to consider, we'll see how Meteor Lake actually performs in the field, but Intel's Core Ultra, right, the new processor they have for AI PC. When I spoke to Sachin Katti, who's the head of the Next group at Intel, he mentioned quite often that they will be using that processor for edge computing, right? So edge infrastructure, whether it's a gateway or it's on-prem or near-prem, server, that they're going to be looking at that. And of course, the jury's out as to what the performance per watt characteristics are for the processor family, but if it's a good improvement, we might start to see some Intel mojo coming back, and that's the other interesting thing that's happening, right? Because on December 14th, they're going live with Core Ultra. So anyway. Hey,
is that because Apple has an Ultra?
And one question: what do you think about the RISC-V architecture?
Yeah, it's very nice.
We're super excited about RISC-V.
I am.
Sci-5 seems to be doing pretty well these days, so
I can see the excitement here.
Yeah. So like the RISC-V, my take on, so we had that whole Sci-5 implosion recently, which is really kind of unfortunate. They laid off pretty much everybody. But the, kind of where RISC-V, if it's going to make a real dent, it'll make it on more of the MCU side of the house. And so, MCU architectures instead of Cortex-M doing some, and so you're seeing like there's a consortium with NXP and some other folks in Europe to build some RISC-V. To kind of, I don't know if it's risk mitigation, but to just have alternatives at the MCU space, where it's every penny counts. And so super low cost, zero licensing kind of MCUs, 32-bit, maybe 64-bit someday. I think that's kind of where RISC-V has a play. Anything above that, kind of at the app processor level and whatever, I think it's way off. And, I think it's gonna live or die in that kind of MCU range down there. But at the same time, look at ARM. ARM's got the, M85, AI acceleration stuff they're doing down there at MCUs. I mean, ARM's not standing still when it comes to that class of compute and AI accelerating it and doing stuff too. So, but yeah, I know a few RISC-V companies out there, and they're, looking for their lane. They're looking for the lane to go in to find a good route to market. So
the product market fit, it's called, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or geopolitical hedge. I mean, people probably don't know, maybe very few people know, that Risk International, they moved their headquarters to Switzerland in 2001, or maybe even earlier, because of the China-US trade war. And many of the folks who are on the board and in the ecosystem network are Chinese companies. And so the thing is maybe it doesn't survive in the West, but definitely the Chinese vendors are probably looking at this and saying, hey, look, we have some IP we can work with.
Is this like Citizen Dick from Singles movie where they go, they love us in Belgium or Portland?
So, and there are companies, I forgot the name of the one that actually is making server class RISC-V processors or CPUs. They're out there. I think it's just a matter of finding scale, just like ARM.
Right.
The thing about ARM, though, is they found with the IPO a huge coalition, Apple, Intel, you name it, that are backing ARM. So, definitely Western semiconductor companies are going to support ARM, keep it going. And then there's other interests that are going to be looking at continuing to support RISC-V, because now it's sort of in a neutral zone. It's more of a neutral technology than, let's say, maybe ARM. Although, we'll see what happens. Yeah. Anyways, a lot of interesting stuff, but geopolitics is definitely at play.
Always part of the equation. Well, I think to Rob's point, like if he wants to go out and buy a Dell HP or Lenovo or Supermicro box that's running ARM, they don't exist. Maybe someone there will take a leap at some point to try to create some differentiation. I haven't heard about it yet. And then maybe somebody, some Chinese OEMs will do some kind of server class systems based on RISC-V and their own Linux distro and stuff. But
because I'm looking for stuff that's low power and low thermals, low heat, that kind of thing, and good enough performance.
Right.
Not
right.
great.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if a Supermicro or somebody took a leap in there.
I'm sorry, Mark.
For doing what? What do you prefer there?
I'm building out a distributed edge cloud across commercial real estate. That's bizarre, I know.
Commercial real estate.
Like you sound like a marketing.
I know. That doesn't seem like a hot item these days, does it? With occupancy so low, but some of us are taking advantage of that depressed market.
I see.
Have you ever been in a skyscraper or in a building and you see on each floor this door called a telecom closet? They actually have different names. On the first floor, there's something called the MDF, which is a big one. Fiber optic comes in there. You'll see Johnson Controls and Honeywell with all their gear in there. Fiber goes in. Fiber and Cat6 goes up through the whole skyscraper, and you break out at each floor to Wi-Fi access points and Ethernet, pretty standard stuff. But the space we're in, since we provide networks for all these buildings, we get rack space in each one of those closets, and we get free electricity and free cooling.
Yeah.
So, and we own the network. And so you kind of go, oh, that sounds like an edge computing opportunity.
I see.
And so that's the angle. And so, I can pop in 1U servers from Dell or whoever, but it'd be interesting to see something that's lower power, lower heat, that kind of thing. But who knows?
Yeah. Now it feels like there's something out there. This is one of my hot topics, as you know, is kind of the big miss in terms of energy resources and high performance compute. Like there's no connection there. And at some point, maybe that's what's going to drive more of the adoption of, lower power compute is just the lack of electricity and availability of electricity and groundwater to cool and power this stuff. But
what is that?
Sorry, I'm like on another conference now.
Oh, wonderful. You know what? I think we're like
and I have a simulated edge agent running in the background in a console window in my other computer too. So
sure, that always be error coding, loop,
right? ABCs always be coding.
Yeah.
Nice.
Funny.
Good times.
Yeah. So, Mark, were you saying something? Were you asking something? No.
I was trying to make fun of Rob's presentation.
That's very nice.
But actually, something. Yesterday we had a really nice dinner here in Barcelona. It's the Smart City Expo.
Oh yeah,
that's right. Yeah, cool.
And the Things industry is invited 25 people to have dinner in a really nice restaurant. and we had all the LoRaWAN community all together dinner, and it was really, really nice to see what's new, what's next.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
All our friends were there, right?
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah. All friends, all good friends.
That's good.
It's good
how's
to see
how's the show? Is it like well attended?
I haven't been there yet. I'm going to go tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of a Smart City Expo. It's, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't been, so I don't know.
We as our analyst reporter on the ground, we need you to go there. and we need to have live broadcasts and recordings and taking notes.
Yeah.
And tell us what's going on there.
Yeah. There you go.
Leonard need to ship me like his camera and microphone and everything to do that.
The cameraman behind you walking around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go.
We need team coverage of the expo.
Yeah.
I know somebody there. What's her name? Jennifer Sanders. She's from Dallas. She kind of leads this whole North Texas innovation deal. She and her group have actually had some traction doing smart cities. I know smart cities are really hard. I know we were all excited about them, and then we got bogged down in City Hall bureaucracy. Yeah. Nobody has any money.
Yeah.
Like, who's paying for this?
Right. Well, and the problem is the person that owns the budget gets voted out, and then another person gets voted in, and then they don't have the budget, and it's like an 18-month cycle of RFPs and redos, and I was involved with some of the Microsoft. They call it critical infrastructure there. There's a guy actually, if you see, there's a guy Jeremy Goldberg is at the show who does a lot of that critical infrastructure stuff, but it's. Yeah, the 90% of the challenge with smart cities is navigating all the bureaucracy and the process. It's not the tech. The tech's the easiest part.
We're still when we need them.
Yeah, it's just navigating all that stuff. So, but also a lot of these cities, there's a lot of cool like AI vision, people counting, cool scenarios, but a lot of them just need basic like upgraded infrastructure for security and ransomware issues and. That's the fact is a lot of these cities are just suffering with, they have an old Dell under the desk at City Hall running everything. And it's kind of a security nightmare and a manageability nightmare and probably running like Windows XP or something crazy like that. So that's a lot of the smart city work is very unglamorous upgrades and kind of lift and shift to the cloud. Then you get into the cool stuff with, cameras on light posts and, license plate recognition with, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, all the surveillance stuff.
Yeah, of course.
People would be
amazed. Surveillance.
People would be amazed how many
public safety.
Yeah.
So many operations around the world are still run by some Dell PC running XP under a desk. Like, you'd be horrified to know it's common. I know Pete and I so much at Microsoft was trying to get our customers to modernize, to upgrade their apps to new platforms. I remember we said, obviously, we tried to get them on Windows Phone. We tried with the Windows 8 tablets, modernize, stuff like that. And what I learned over time, firsthand working with customers, is they don't give a shit about that as much as we did. They're like, I have this much budget in IT, and I don't want to spend it on modernizing old stuff. I want to find whatever it takes to make my old stuff still run without changing it, actually, and use my new budget for new cool things. Yeah. And that's why I would see at giant companies, my favorite example, I won't name the big company that has a supply chain management system running on OS 2. And then after a while, when OS 2 is no longer supported by IBM, they're like, well, we don't want to upgrade this. We want to keep it running. And so here's how they found supportability. Running on XP, and then Microsoft actually got into the virtualization game, which led to getting into Azure through a small acquisition of a little product called Virtual PC that people used on the Mac to run Windows prior to Parallels. And so we acquired Virtual PC. And anyway, Microsoft supported OS 2 as a guest operating system in Virtual PC hosted on Windows XP to run their supply chain management. And they're like, that's great. We're going to go with that. We're not going to migrate the software. We're not updating it to the latest version of .NET or whatever.
Right.
And it turns out that was a common theme. Remember how hard it was to get companies to stop using XP?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if it's already running and, don't break it, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it was like, getting them. Now there's security issues and there's other issues that are motivating people to
but there's innovation on that front that can happen as well. I mean, you can create, wrappers and then microsegment, containers and stuff like that. I mean, there's still, I think this is one of the things that I actually tell a lot of my clients to think about is how do you design longevity into your products? I mean, it runs counter to what they want in terms of being able to drive unit sales, but the wall that they oftentimes hit is exactly what you're talking about, Rob, is they just don't want to switch out stuff that works, right? And they don't care about all the sustainability slides and, digital transformation X, Y, Z, and, none of that nonsense.
All the analysts saying that they're going to be left behind if they don't in the blank.
But it's like when you go to Costco and they still use green screens, right? And that shit is like faster than hell, but it's like a AS400.
If you talk to those people in retail or at restaurants that are using Squirrel and it all looks like DOS or whatever, they'll tell you they've tried Windows-based things that are beautiful, and they say they suck, and their performance is not even close to the text-based DOS-looking thing. And that's why they won't switch.
Yeah.
And they got the keyboard shortcuts, and they're like...
And you watch them. It's like... clack, 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 and then they're done. They don't want to sit there and do this point-and-click nonsense. They just want...
640K, baby. That's all we need.
You know what I'm saying?
All you need. That's right.
I mean, it's just a reality. But then, it's almost like some vendors have denial about it. They just want to force people to move on to the next platform when maybe the solution is how do we help our customers, bring older systems into the fold, right? So if you're looking at it from a portfolio perspective, and how do we enable them to continue to modernize existing assets and then extend their longevity. I mean, that there's money there, right? It's not to say there isn't money there. It's just you're not going to be selling more units. But this is important that we're bringing this up on a quote unquote IoT show, because I don't think a lot of the new entrants the relatively new entrants in IoT think that way, right? In terms of longevity, they think in terms of this whole software-defined ridiculous velocity 300, friggin' releases or build changes in a week. They think that that's we could do that with it and. We can have a CI/CD pipeline and we can use Agile and all this other stuff. And the end user's going, what the friggin' hell are you talking about? I want you to deploy once and never friggin' bother me again. I just want this shit to work. What are you talking about? Agile, CI/CD, and then, wait a minute, if I have to do a CI/CD, that means I have to hire a developer. Who's going to do all the development testing and blah?
Revalidate.
Is that going to be for free? It's like...
But the answer is generative AI, right? I think we talk about
Copilot it. Just Copilot it.
God.
Yeah.
Throw a Copilot on
it. I'm going home.
No. Now seriously. So banks here running still on mainframes.
Really?
So they are using generative AI to start coding on Fortran and Pascal and all this shit.
COBOL.
So it's accelerating the project so much. So there are now consulting firms for banks here in Europe focused, like having huge teams of developers focused on generative AI for this type of customers because they can do double of projects. Well,
it's interesting you mentioned that. I mean, I think a lot of these languages you're mentioning, COBOL and these other things, I mean, you can't find a COBOL developer these days too often. So generative AI may be the answer, right? It's the ultimate COBOL developer. But I think what Leonard also was talking about was just this operational process where, I'm a business and I make widgets and I bend metal. And now I've got this system where all of a sudden I got to think about software releases and updates and validations and verifications, and my suppliers are throwing all these new builds at me, and it doesn't work. There's a mismatch on that. Now, that being said, I think every company needs to have some software expertise as part of their thing. And every company needs to get smarter about software, especially the metal bender type folks, automotive manufacturers, for example. But a lot of these other folks, it just needs to be a lot more commercialized and packaged for it to really be successful.
Yeah.
And these smaller businesses, you can't throw a chemistry set at them and expect them to mix it up right. There's going to be some spillage. So that's kind of chronic issue, right, in the IoT space.
Yeah,
exactly. Sorry. I agree that I mix concepts, but on the other hand, I was listening to this talk of Reynolds saying that last year Tesla upgraded 153 times their cars, each car, and this year 88 times. And actually, the conclusion was like, okay, so you bought a car 2 years ago, and probably now it's a completely different car because of all the software updates. Then I think this is something important to have, because it's not about, so as well on industry, if you want to have improve your efficiency, etc., maybe you can, if you update the software of things that are running on your industry, maybe you can change the angle that something is performed, etc., and that can increase flexibility or efficiency.
Well, I wonder what percentage of those 88 updates were just bug fixes because there was mistakes to begin with, as opposed to adding some new cool capabilities, right? Because you always get the updates, and I always read the release notes, and it's just it's stability, security fixes. It's like we screwed up, and so here's a fix. It's like we should have caught it the first time, but we were in a hurry because we had a press release. And so,
we were too much in a hurry pushing out dung, so we got to clean it up now.
People wanted to get ludicrous mode.
Yeah, there you go.
They did.
Yeah. No, that's a feature. That was legit. It's like that. What's that old Greek story? It's like the ship. That wooden ship, and like if you swap out every piece of wood on the ship, is it still the same ship that you started with? It's sort of like if you ship the software and do 150 updates to it, is it still the same software, or is it a whole new thing?
That brings me to an actual IoT use case. So when I was at Hitachi, we talked about remaining useful life and all that kind of stuff in IoT and digital twins and all that. And it turns out Hitachi was literally completely rebuilding their bullet trains over the course of several years in order to ensure that they are working perfectly. And they were successful in that endeavor, but they spent a fortune doing it, right? And so, when we talk about predictive maintenance versus just scheduled maintenance, most people live on some kind of schedule of some kind based on not just a guess, but, an educated guess based on past history on I need to change my oil this often. I need to do these maintenance. And then we started saying, why don't you let the data tell you when to do the maintenance and everything? And so rebuilding the Greek ship in Japan, they were rebuilding bullet trains to ensure that it was flawless, but at a huge cost, right?
Yeah. The ship of Theseus.
Okay.
The ship of Theseus. Right. The Theseus paradox is if you swap everything out one by one, is it still the same thing that you started with? So, well, unfortunately, software and updates and FOTA have given folks. I was talking to my uncle last night, who's turning 91 in this fall, and he was saying he's an aerospace engineer from way back. He's like, when I was growing up, we didn't have software.
Yeah,
like they just built stuff.
Yeah,
and there was no software. Yeah, it was just hardware basically that did stuff.
Pencil and paper. And a ruler.
Yeah, or just gears and metal and stuff. And then, and now that you've got software, it's an excuse to get to market with something that's kind of sort of works, and then we'll figure it out later. We've got FOTA and we've got Windows Update and we've got all sorts of escape hatches to fix it in the field, as they say. That's the first thing you do when you get a device these days, right? First thing is get an update.
Yeah.
0-day update. That's what we used to call it. The 0-day update.
Yeah.
Right.
Why do you think we have a thing called cybersecurity? That's to deal with all the the trash out there that people are putting out there and exposing users to, right? I mean, it's, you know, I mean, back in the day when I was running a software team and working with clients and their software teams, I mean, people really didn't think about, they just assumed security was built in. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
people assumed a lot.
It's really friggin' scary stuff, man. And people just pump crap out. That's the culture. It's a cultural thing now.
It's a cultural thing.
Just get something out there, see if it works. Get doo-doo, throw it up against the wall.
Right.
See if it has some adhesive quality.
Run fast and break things.
Yeah, and then let's see if it sticks long enough so that the VC funds us with them.
Well, and that's great if you're doing like, you know, a Facebook build or something like that where it's just a web-based thing.
Like nonsense, you know, bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
But the issue is, when you start doing things that are updating devices in the field and other equipment, I mean, this goes back to the smart cities discussion. Right. You know, it's also what causes a lot of friction for deployment is just a concern about, you know, things getting broken and maintenance and what happens when I've deployed all this stuff all around my municipality and then it all breaks, right? It all needs to be updated or whatever. And so that's because the culture is, you know, on the cloud and website is, you know, build it every night. You know, build it every night.
But here's the thing about the cloud. The cloud is optimal for, you know, CI/CD supporting environments, right? It's like, and that makes sense. But taking that out of context and thinking that is our product that's our product life cycle, right? Is misguided. There should be a quality gate, and that quality gate oftentimes doesn't exist, right? And that's why everyone keeps pumping shit out there. And when you start looking at critical infrastructure, and you hear somebody say, we on a daily basis we put out 300 updates. It's like what you said, Pete. I was like, wow, how bad is your code? Because I can't imagine there's a customer out there that has so many features, right? These microscopic features that they want that require you to put out that many friggin' updates. What that tells me is you have a friggin' disastrous software and service that you're up there.
Do we blame Paul Graham and Y Combinator and their mantra of just ship right away, just start shipping, just ship the crap, it'll be fine. We'll figure it out later. Because I think you've got a whole lot of people, batches that go through YC, and then other people have copied them. And then now there's this mentality of just ship. Don't wait for it to be great. Don't worry about that. What was that word you said? Quality? No.
Oh, what?
Do that later.
Yeah, absolutely. Just ship it, baby. Ship it. They don't have a ship room at YC.
Yeah, it's called quality. Why? We have no idea what it is and why do it at all. You know, just
absolutely
silly ideas up against.
But at the end, software is made by humans, right? So everyone needs to go to pick up children at school. Your daughter is sick, no? I don't know. So
so far it's made by humans. I mean, maybe not for long.
Here's the thing that folks on the edge want: zero touch, zero maintenance, zero a lot of stuff. That if you focus on quality code, and you reduce things down to zero maintenance, and don't assume that you're going to make a ton of money off of the constant provisioning,
but you assume that the quality of this, software is great. Why do you assume that?
You don't. We don't. But because a lot of folks assume that in order to gain share in the market or create a presence in the market, we just have to fling doo-doo into the doo-doo out there and see if it sticks. They don't pay a lot of attention to the software, right? They try to take shortcuts and get something out there as quickly as possible. But does that work? Is it a better philosophy? Let's come up with a quality stack and then put something out there that is durable, that provides the zero cost of all this other stuff that customers want. and then sell the solution.
Your definition is Germany. Yeah, your definition is Germany. Your definition is Germany.
Why?
Germany.
Japan.
Because everything that they do must work perfectly with no errors, etc. In general, I mean, and they don't release it, and they take 5-10 years to release because it must be perfect. And then I remember once that they asked me when I was doing the Things I/O, "Oh, this is made in Spain." Yes. Oh, it works. Like, yeah, of course.
How could that be? It's made in Spain.
It's made in Germany and it works. What?
Yeah. Well, no, I never really saw it. I thought for quite some time the Germans, and I'm sure my German friends will hate me for saying this, but they had trouble with software. And bridging the hardware with software, and developing reliable systems. I mean, BMW for a long time had big problems.
Well, look at VW.
But they were still pumping out cars.
Does anyone here own an ID4? Apparently, they don't work. They have software issues.
Ouch!
Terrible software issues.
Ouch.
So
woo! In the last few minutes we have here, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the big news of this week, which is, Sam Altman came out with his little dev event with this, everybody gets a GPT. You get a GPT. You get a GPT. Everybody look under your chair, Oprah, you got a GPT. That's pretty interesting stuff, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're going all in to cultivate a developer community, and I've heard a lot of there's a lot of interesting things that they're doing and making things more accessible, and different pricing and the little business model innovation, which is great. And I've also heard, well, it's a little rough, it's a little clunky, but I think just fast forward another 18 months, 2 years, they can have a lot of gravity around that developer community. And I think what it also means is it's going to be, big tech is going to be the center of gravity for a lot of this stuff, because the big models, the underlying, I think, infrastructure is really going to be big tech driven. And then it's a matter of, well, how do smaller companies sort of pile on there and do something differentiated?
Yeah.
But they'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Good start.
And then Elon came out with his X AI. What's the name of it?
Grok,
which is a term we use a lot at Microsoft.
That's right. Stranger in a strange land, Robert.
That's right. And so it is a great name, and it's supposed to be sarcastic and funny in its responses. So we'll see.
So it's inaccurate, sarcastic, and funny. So that's pretty cool. Sounds pretty useful.
Sounds like
sounds like Twitter, actually. I don't know. It's kind of
yeah. It's free for all, like Twitter is, right? Absolutely.
I mean, it's
oh my gosh.
I'm sure it'll find its place, but it's cool to see all the innovation that's happening out there and how it'll manifest. I think obviously the trick here is what turns into real business versus kind of interesting tech, and I think that's the jury's still out on all that stuff. But
but I'm definitely looking forward to building my own custom GPT now that we can do that. And you're right, they've got a marketplace where you could sell your specific GPT for your business, your whatever. I think it's interesting times for sure.
Yeah, reminds me of
Leonard about
cryptos.
What?
We'll see.
Say again.
Layer 2 cryptos. The shit that was built on top of Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Oh, that. Well, I don't know. I'd go that far.
I'd go that far. We'll see. It sounds to me, it sounds like a pivot more than it is like. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I see a lot more of this stuff in enterprise than most people, and
I do. I have empathy for the people that are going to get foisted upon them every manner of AI that they never wanted or never thought of.
Oh yeah,
that is going to happen.
We are already suffering from it. I can't.
So as for AI, I have a book recommendation. I'm cheating. I'm listening to it on Audible, but take a look at this.
Oh, okay.
No, it's really good, actually. It's really good. I mean, these are the guys from DeepMind who got acquired by Google, who really got this whole thing going. And so highly recommend, because you'll learn from the very beginning, because DeepMind and Transformer really drove this more than anybody else. And so definitely, and you get to hear the history of it, you know, in England from right where it all started. And so it's very interesting stuff to, you know, read or listen to when you're out on your jog or on the treadmill or whatever, or on a car trip.
And save your pennies for your AI PC, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Pete, great having you on. Who wants to take us out? Who wants to take us out?
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us at IoT Coffee Talk.
Frozen.
You can check us out every week. You can go to iotcoffeetalk.com, and which will redirect you through the magic of HTTP stuff to the YouTube, so you can watch the video. We also convert the video through Magic into audio. And so wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us instead of this Audible book, which, you know, it's questionable who has more value. But anyway, do that. We love you. Donate to elevate our kids. Let's help those kids out. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
All right.
See you guys.
Adios.
Here.